What's going on, everyone? Could the Miami Heat be a potential trade destination for Kyrie Irving? Frank Isola responded in a tweet stating that a potential trade to the Miami Heat for Kyrie Irving is a real possibility. Up until this point, all of the reports, everything, all signs point to Kyrie Irving going to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers make the most sense. Kyrie wants to be there. LeBron James is there. The Lakers would be willing to trade for Kyrie Irving, and no other teams are interested in trying to acquire Kyrie Irving at this time. And so many believe that he is going to the Lakers. But according to Frank, it is possible that Kyrie Irving could be going to the Miami Heat for a one-for-one trade. And it would be the Miami Heat get Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets get Kyle Lowry. Now, it would basically be a swap of point guards, and thus both teams would win in theory, right? Here's the thing. I don't think this makes any sense. First off, it was just a random response to a tweet. It wasn't anything significant. It's not Woj or anybody like that throwing out this information. And why in the world would anybody want Kyle Lowry at this time with the contract that he has? If he was an expiring contract, I think it could make sense. You know, we're willing to take on Kyrie Irving for Kyle Lowry, do the swap, and then Kyle Lowry is a free agent. You could re-sign him if it works out. If not, you let him go sign to another team. But Kyle Lowry is on a fresh deal. I mean, and he's making significant money for a guy that has been very injury prone lately. And it's a guy that's up there in age. He's 34 years old? And he's not a guy to the level and caliber of a Kyrie Irving. And a lot of the reports and thinking and sort of rumor mill that's going around now on this potential trade that personally I believe is a non-trade, but a lot of the thinking is that Kevin Durant has stated that he wanted to play with Kyle Lowry if traded to Miami. But there's a big difference there. If Kevin Durant is getting traded to Miami and you have Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and you have Kyle Lowry, that makes a lot more sense. But to have Kyle Lowry on your team for the next 4 years, you basically have a team of Kyle Lowry, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons for the next 4 years or 3 years or whatever until, some contracts expire or whatever the case may be. But it just makes no sense from the Brooklyn Nets side. From Miami's side, you can make the argument, Kyrie Irving, that's what Miami needs, right? Miami needs that go-to scorer. They need some help for Jimmy Butler. But even then, you got to think about Pat Riley. Pat Riley is a very specific type of guy. He is a no-nonsense, no BS, you show up, you perform, you do your job type of guy. And yes, he is all about the star power, right? But Kyrie Irving would probably be the worst fit in Miami ever. Out of any place he could go, that would probably be the worst fit. I mean, Miami has an entire, a physical workout that you have to pass just to step on the court. And they're the only team in the NBA that has that. It's not something that is NBA regulated or anything. It's their requirements to be a player on the team. So even if, for whatever reason, Brooklyn was yeah, we'll take Kyle Lowry, which I think makes absolutely no sense for Brooklyn because Brooklyn wants to compete and they want to clear cap space. The big reason that the Brooklyn Nets want the Lakers to take Joe Harris is to clear up cap space, right? So that way, if they do keep Kevin Durant, they could go try to get somebody else this year or next year or whenever, later on down the road. Or even if they trade Kevin Durant, they still have cap flexibility to go get other pieces to put around whatever they get in the Kevin Durant trade. Pat Riley would not want Kyrie Irving whatsoever. Kyrie Irving is not a Pat Riley type player. And Pat Riley does love stars, but he's very specific in those stars he acquires. I mean, just look at Pat Riley's career as far as being an exec. He never goes anywhere near a guy even close to Kyrie Irving. As talented and skilled as Kyrie Irving is, there's no way Pat Riley would want a guy like Kyrie Irving with all of his antics, no-shows, all of that stuff. Just being a locker room headache. Not just that, but beyond Pat Riley, think about Jimmy Butler. That would be a disaster. I mean, I could see Jimmy Butler going to Pat Riley himself and just saying, no, that's not happening. You're not bringing him here. Jimmy Butler is a maniac. He's maniacal when it comes to conditioning and working and doing your job and all of that stuff. You know, many people say that he is an a-hole, but it's his competitive drive in nature. It's a guy that wants to just have everybody be to this specific standard. That's why Jimmy Butler works so well in Miami, because he's like the perfect player for what Pat Riley and the Heat's organization want. That just guy that is just ruthless, and his determination and his drive and all of that stuff. And as much as the Miami Heat would benefit from having Kyrie Irving, as much as the Miami Heat need another go-to scorer, Kyrie Irving is not the answer. I could see Jimmy Butler punching Kyrie Irving in the mouth because of something. Like, it would be, this team would implode if they got Kyrie Irving. Because Kyrie Irving's not a guy that wants to put in the hours, put in the work, all that stuff. I mean, even with the Brooklyn Nets, even when he was with Boston, teams like that, he would show up to practice late. He would miss practice at times. Like, he's not a guy that's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to be there 2 hours early. I'm going to stay 2 hours after, all that stuff. Like, Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler would be just floored with this guy. Like, it would be a total disaster. And I don't see any way that Miami would be interested in even attempting to acquire Kyrie Irving. But beyond that, the Brooklyn Nets want picks. They want assets. They want things beyond just a player. And so a one-for-one swap would not make any sense. Miami would have to give up something else besides Kyle Lowry. Because, I mean, even if you're Brooklyn, think about it. You're like, wait a minute. Like, we're taking on this terrible contract, this guy that's, 6 years older or whatever, 5 years older than Kyrie Irving, and he's injury prone and all this stuff, and you want us to do a one-for-one swap? I think it's just some guy that just wanted to get some attention in a report and just threw it out. He didn't even make an article about it. It was from a tweet, and people just ran with it. Like, that was the whole thing. It wasn't like this guy put together an official report or somebody that has huge credibility. I mean, Frank is a guy that has done reporting before. He's not some like nobody, but still, he's not a guy that's breaking news and stuff. He's a guy that just threw out this idea. Well, what about Kyrie Irving for Kyle Lowry? Just kind of just throwing it out in passing almost. But when you really think about it, it makes absolutely zero sense for either side. Miami, it makes no sense because you're getting a guy in Kyrie Irving who's probably going to leave. So you're giving up assets for a guy that's going to stay there for 1 year. Giving up assets for a guy that's likely going to implode your team and cause all kinds of locker room friction and stuff like that. That's the last thing you need. Miami would not touch Kyrie Irving with a 10-foot pole. If anything, this is just another, Brooklyn play, right? I mean, think about it. They did the same thing. What did we hear? We heard the Sixers and we heard the Dallas Mavericks. Oh, what about them? They're a potential. They could be a suitor, all this stuff, and people just throwing out that stuff. And Dallas and Philly immediately shot that down and said, no way. That is not happening. Neither of us want anything to do with this guy. Nobody wants Kyrie Irving but the Lakers. And so, as much as Miami would make sense with the skill set and abilities that Kyrie has, absolutely, that would be incredible from a player standpoint. The problem is him personally does not fit the Miami Heat whatsoever. And if that's the case, you're better off going and getting Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a guy I could see fitting. He would very likely be obtainable and acquirable for Miami, more so than anyone else. Kyrie Irving, you could probably just give something. But, they're already trying to get 2 first-round picks from the Lakers, and Russell Westbrook at least is an expiring contract. As bad as Westbrook might be on the Brooklyn Nets, or even whether he's great, whatever the case may be, he's an expiring contract, so at least it's worth it. Kyle Lowry is making a lot of money for the next several years, and that's not where the Brooklyn Nets want to go. And I do understand, Brooklyn wants to remain competitive. They can't tank. But getting Kyle Lowry is not going to improve your chances at all. Kyle Lowry was very solid for Miami when he was healthy, but that's been the big problem the last few years. And he was basically on one leg and arguably shouldn't have been playing in the playoffs, but he did it anyway. And I respect that. I give him a lot of credit. But he came in the season overweight, all that. It's a big problem. I just don't see the Brooklyn Nets wanting anything to do with Kyle Lowry, especially in a one-for-one trade. Maybe if you're giving up 2 firsts, maybe they're like, okay, but then that makes no sense for Miami. We're going to give up 2 first-round picks for Kyrie Irving that might not even work and might leave us after this year? Like, it makes no logical sense for the Miami Heat. But a guy like Donovan Mitchell would make all the sense in the world. If you're Miami, you go get a guy like Donovan Mitchell. You don't go anywhere near Kyrie Irving. You stay as far away from Kyrie Irving as possible. And just because I know somebody's going to say, well, aren't you a Laker fan? So this would make sense because, you know, you're trying to stick up for the Lakers or whatever nonsense comment that, you know, somebody will leave in the comment section. This has nothing to do with being a Laker fan. I mean, just think about it. Like, tell me I'm wrong. You have a Miami Heat who has a very specific culture, a very specific executive in Pat Riley, a very specific player in Jimmy Butler, and you want to go get a guy that has notoriously been a flake when it comes to playing. A guy that cares more about everything else than playing basketball. A guy that doesn't go to practice, that goes to practice late, that doesn't play in games. And I'm not even talking about the whole vaccine thing. I'm talking about all the other instances besides that. I mean, it's been countless. Boston had a problem with it. The Cavs had a problem with it. The Nets had a problem with it. No way. I just think that this would be a disaster for Miami. I don't think they go anywhere near him. And from the Brooklyn side, like I said, why would Brooklyn want Kyle Lowry on a terrible contract who's injury prone and you have to keep for the next 4 years? He's going to be 38 by the time his contract's up. Like, that makes no sense to go get a guy like that, and you're stuck with him 4 years. Whether you trade Kevin Durant or not, it makes no sense. And the whole thought, I get it, is that Kevin Durant said he wants to play with Kyrie Irving. Yes, on the Heat with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Yes, that's why. That makes sense because Kyle Lowry is now your 4th or 5th option on the team, not your 2nd. That's a big difference. So, no, I just don't see this happening. I think Miami turns their attention and direction to Donovan Mitchell, very likely, or somebody else. I mean, like I said, this isn't even a report. Like, this is literally a non-report. I mean, even looking into this story, the only place that I saw that actually had it actually covered was Bleacher Report. And Bleacher Report, the first line says that, that it was just a response to a tweet. Like, it wasn't even an official report. And then it goes into Woj talking about, the Lakers trade and stuff like that. It wasn't even, it was just like a passing thing. So I just don't buy into it personally, but as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think about this? Do you think, yeah, it makes sense for both sides? Miami, they need that scorer. They need Jimmy Butler to get some help offensively, and Kyrie Irving can provide that, which he definitely can. Kyrie Irving could definitely provide that. I think Kyrie Irving, if he was, a guy that bought into basketball and a guy that wanted to work hard and show up, I think he would be a great fit for Miami. But he hasn't been that guy. And his track record proves that he hasn't been that guy. And, I just don't think it's a good fit. But do you think, yeah, maybe they can make it work? Maybe, if he gets some structure, maybe then he'll kind of buy in, stuff like that. You have a guy like Jimmy Butler who's kind of in his ass. You got Pat Riley who's no nonsense, no BS, get the job done. Do you think maybe he'd buy in? And from Brooklyn's side, do you think it makes sense for Brooklyn to take Kyle Lowry? I just look at his bad contract, his age, his injury history. I just look at everything. He's not a guy that's going to go get you 20 a night. I just don't see it. I mean, it just on paper it looks great for Miami, but and then if you're Miami, are you really going to give up draft picks and stuff to make this trade happen? Because that's the only way it's really going to happen. I just don't think it happens. But again, would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, however you feel about this, down in the comment section below. One last little shameless plug is I did start As It Stands Lakers. It is a channel just like this, dedicated to only the Lakers, because the Lakers are my favorite team. And on this channel, As It Stands, I talk about all teams, all sports, stuff like that. We have football season coming up, so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And I just wanted to make a dedicated channel to the Lakers to give the ins and outs. Now, all the big stuff, all the big news and stuff, I will still post here on this channel. But if you want all the ins and outs and just rumors and theories and just discussions just strictly on the Lakers, link down in the description or in the comment section. Go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot, lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.